Welcome to the Hello Flow podcast, a space where we bridge together professional success and career alignment with personal well-being. I'm your host, Kaycee Cunliffe. Join me in conversations around driving your career while also being mindful of your overall well-being. At a time when many people are awakening to their soul's purpose and navigating that messy but magical middle, I offer this space for personal and professional growth and alignment, and a place to ground and support you in your daily grind. After tuning into this podcast, I hope you receive the empowering counsel and actionable tools to usher in more ease and flow in your life, and equip you as you discover, develop, and evolve your Dharma. Now on to the episode. I have been wanting to have this conversation for a long time with a new friend on island, Alana Eagle, and I'm so excited to finally share it with you. Alana is founder of DABL, which stands for Design a Beautiful Life. After quitting alcohol a few years ago to get her mental and physical health back, Alana found a way to express part of her Dharma through curating and hosting alcohol-free events and wellness workshops and micro-retreats. We talk about why both of us choose to lead alcohol-free lives, how alcohol and other vices or crutches hold a mirror up to ourselves, and what you gain when you decide to remove potential vices like alcohol from your life. I believe this is a really important conversation to have, whether you decide to drink alcohol or not. It's not about trying to convince everyone to stop drinking alcohol, even as a casual drinker. It's also meant to introduce a conversation around what other potential vices or crutches do we have and rely on, or what behavior or behaviors do we default to that distracts us from addressing something else that we're not wanting to face. Listen on to find out more. Now on to the episode. I'm so excited to introduce our guest this week, Alana Eagle. Welcome to the Hello Flow Pod.
Thank you, Kaycee.
So excited to have you here, and wanted to invite you because we talked about how you made that decision to go into an alcohol-free lifestyle. So I'd love to have you share your story on the decision to move into this kind of lifestyle, and what has that changed for you?
Sure. So the decision actually happened in January of 2021 is when my husband and I decided to take a dry January. And at that point, it was the middle of the pandemic. I was a new mother, and I had done dry Januaries before. We used to call them airing out from the holidays. And so it was actually his choice. He said, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And I was like, "Okay, fine, I guess so." And at that point, my kid was almost 1. I was struggling with postpartum depression, which I actually didn't really realize at the time. I had started talk therapy, which I think a lot of people did during the pandemic, and my drinking got kind of heavier. And it was just a way to delineate the work day from home day while we're all working from home. And so, before I was kind of like a social casual drinker, had some wine at home. Definitely went through my party phases during college and some tougher points. But at this point, I was a functioning, working professional who, the pandemic was rough for a lot of people. So the decision to stop drinking was just to get our health back on our side. So mentally and physically, I decided that was a good way to kind of reset. And 1 month led to, okay, let's extend it to my husband's birthday in February. Okay, let's extend it to our son's birthday in March. Okay, let's extend it to our anniversary in May. And we kept pushing until 6 months went by, and we were going, okay, now what do we do? 6 months went by. If we stop now, we're quitters. So do we keep doing this? And I had decided at that point, I was feeling so good that I wanted to keep it going. And my husband said, I don't know how I'm feeling. So he decided to, he went back to drinking, but I kept it. And then it wasn't until 1 year in that I told anybody. So I just kept telling people, oh yeah, I just am not drinking right now. Until about a year in, I was like, yeah, this is my decision. But it was initially becoming a mother that made me decide that this was the life I wanted, because I wanted to be the best human that I could be and the best parent I could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I find that interesting when at the very beginning you had mentioned you were a casual drinker before,
Mm-hmm.
and then the pandemic hit.
Yep.
And that impacted everybody in different ways. And for you, it almost drove, or it did drive, more drinking
Yep.
because of everything that's going on in the world. But also, you kind of said, I'm done with work. Now I need to go into the home life, but I'm in the same location.
Yep.
So I'm going to deal with it by just drinking more. And so would you say that when you were a casual drinker, how did you kind of look at alcohol then in that light versus when the pandemic hit and, you know, you were going through postpartum and you were using it a little bit more as maybe a vice or a crutch?
Yeah. I think before, when, I was going into the into the office, I was surrounded by coworkers. We would go to Pauhana after work. It was more of a social thing. And that just felt more normal.
Mm-hmm.
When it was at home and it was just my husband and I, and we would pop open a bottle of wine and then finish that bottle of wine that night and then kind of wake up foggy the next day, that's when my eyes really opened up to, what is this? What am I doing? Like, this is difficult. And so, but also you have nowhere to go in the morning. You just wake up and you start doing your work. So it was a little different in terms of vices. When I used to be a drinker, when I was younger, my husband and I actually both used to say, like, oh, we don't trust anybody without a vice, whether that be smoking, drinking, something that's you'd consider a vice. But at this point, I think vices, now I feel like I wouldn't trust anybody who doesn't understand the emotional underlying reason of that vice.
Yeah.
So if you are a drinker or smoker and maybe there is some sort of reason behind just like enjoying a drink or something once in a while, if you don't understand that, that's kind of the issue there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like, and alcohol seems like the, I don't know if avenue is the right term, but a lot of people could use alcohol as some kind of vice or crutch because you're trying to ignore a feeling that's there, or there's other things that are going on and you don't want to deal with it. So let me just go to this thing that will help me feel better, or what we feel like could make me feel better. Or in the sense, even from a casual sense, is, oh, I'm going to drink because I'm going to have fun. I'm going to have more fun if I drink. So I think that's interesting to kind of really understand, well, why do I drink? Even though I know it's not great for my body.
And I think it's always the immediate effect is it's more fun. It lets you let loose. You can numb out a little bit. You don't have to think about anything that is stressing you out. It lets you detach from that difficult emotion that you might be dealing with. The long-term effect is that your stress levels will be higher. You won't be able to deal with your emotions. Your emotional maturity is a little lower just because you have had this crutch to use. So that is one thing that I learned after I stopped drinking was, oh, these waves of emotion are totally something that I need to learn to deal with.
Yeah.
And so that has now become a strength and something that I work on is like, is this wave of emotion, which actually one thing that was interesting was when I quit drinking, there was so much more connection to my body that I realized, oh, a lot of feelings that I thought was linked to drinking before is just a natural cycle in my body, or the way my body deals with stress, or like when I'm dehydrated, or maybe I didn't get enough sleep, or maybe I need to move a little more. A lot of those things are a little more natural now than what I thought before might have been related to a hangover, or like residual alcohol in my body, or just being kind of worn out from drinking. And so having that connection is a lot deeper now because I am able to feel what my body is telling me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. What a great, like, not only insight, but experience that you're going through.
Yeah.
Because it seems like alcohol or any other vice, you're suppressing
Yes.
what's naturally happening, the true nature in your body. And in this instance, it's these emotions and feelings that just weren't being explored. So can you talk to us a little bit, like maybe some examples, or how has that experience been as you've been experiencing these wave of emotions?
In terms of emotions, I feel like I definitely notice it being a woman, like I definitely notice it connecting more to my cycle. Just to like put that out there, I can tell when my energy levels are higher, when they're lower, just naturally in terms of like my monthly cycle. The one thing I did want to mention was like when I stopped drinking in 2021, that had led me to a path of like spiritual awakening that I had not been on before. I was always into self-help, self-development, self-improvement type of stuff. I had been listening and reading all the books and doing as much as I could, affirmations, goal settings, all of that. But it wasn't until I stopped drinking that I allowed myself to tap into something else that was out there. After I quit drinking, I was listening to a Super Soul Sunday from Oprah. Yeah. And I think it was a Sunday too. And Eckhart Tolle came on. And then when I listened to his podcast and he started talking about presence and being in the now, that had like switched everything for me. It went from, oh my gosh, I'm always worrying about the future, or I'm always regretting the past and thinking about the mistakes that I made in life. What's going on right now? I'm fine. This is great. Life is awesome. Like, so that was the biggest shift for me emotionally, was taking me out of the future and out of the past and putting me right in that moment right now. And so it's a practice, and I try to bring that into my daily life, but it definitely is a practice that I work on all the time.
Yeah, because even if you think about it just from like almost like a common sense perspective, when you take out alcohol, which is a spirit, if you take it out of your body, then you're able to be in it a bit more, not just physically, you're waking up with more energy, but spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, you can go deeper because you can access those parts now.
Absolutely.
We don't have this additional item in your body that is altering how you feel at the moment. So is there anything else that you're doing now that you were like, I can be more present in my body, and that also means I can be more present in my life? Have you augmented it with anything else now that alcohol is gone from your life?
So now that alcohol is gone from my life and I don't have that crutch to lean on anymore, I definitely have to bring in new ways to deal with emotional stress, because that is going to happen in life. Yes. Problems are going to come up, and the way I deal with them is important because I need to make sure I don't hold on to those, and able to process and able to let it go, able to just kind of move forward when things come up. And so a lot of that has to do with making sure I'm moving my body, and I work out a lot more now, and more intuitively too, instead of just going into the gym or going on a run to like sweat it out like I used to do, or kind of process the alcohol. Now it's really to be like, what parts of my body do I need strengthened? What parts of my body do I want to be a little more fluid and flexible? And so I really am able to feel into my core and my body a lot more. I do a lot more, I studied neuroscience with a neuroscience health coach, Coach Alyssa Chang, and she taught me a lot of drills that just deal with the nervous system. And so now I caretake for my nervous system instead of just thinking about the physical appearance and working out. And then sleep, taking care of like my sleep quality is so much better when you don't drink. I remember waking up in the middle of the night with anxiety. But that is probably linked to the drinking that I did the night before. Yeah. Your body doesn't sleep as well when you drink. Yeah.
Like waking up in the middle of the night.
Yeah. Because you're metabolizing the alcohol that you intake at night. And so your body is dealing with that instead of actually getting rest. And so I remember waking up and being like, oh my God, I'm wide awake. What's going on?
Yeah.
And so it was because my body wasn't sleeping. So now I sleep. And as a new parent, my son wasn't even one yet when I stopped drinking. As a new parent, I was already sleep deprived, and then dealing with postpartum, and then feeling like my body wasn't on my side. My mental health wasn't on my side. cutting out alcohol was the best thing I ever did. To be able to start incorporating the other practices into my life that helped me regain control. Yeah.
I love that. So that was the first thing that came and is like, let's kind of get the toxins out.
Yes. Yeah.
And then now I can kind of go in deeper through these other types of modalities or approaches. So it's interesting because alcohol is so normalized in, we were talking off camera about that in terms of, not only in the Western world, but globally as well. And where does it kind of start? So can you kind of share a little bit of the stats that you were looking at?
Yeah.
And then we can kind of talk about how it became so normalized for us.
Yeah, sure. So, the statistics that I just found that a study done in 2022 from the Drug Use and Health Survey, 78.5% of people ages 12 and older have tried alcohol. And then within that, 64.5 or around there percent have tried it within the last year. So this isn't just like one time and then done. This is, probably a little more regular than just once. Yeah.
And that's 12 years old.
Yes.
Not, preteen, early teen ages. And we were also talking about growing up, how it seemed normal because that's what we would watch at the movies or on television.
Yeah. It's all those party movies where the teens are at a high school party at their parents' house because they're out of town. They all have a keg with their red cups and drinking and getting into trouble. Like, that's what we were fed when we were teens. I mean, I think the first sip of alcohol I had was about 13 or 14 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know in like Europe is a little different because I think they don't have a drinking age. Yeah. And so families would be at the dinner table and they would allow their teenagers to drink. So by the time they get to college and they're out of the house, then maybe it doesn't impact them as much. So I think that culture is a little different. But if we were to focus just on, United States and American or North American culture, it was like just normalized. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's how you party. That's how you hang out. That's how you socialize. Yeah. And so I definitely, I drank alcohol about, I think maybe in 2018 or 2019. I also decided to give up alcohol and I went an entire year and it was my whole, I'm trying to be healthier as a person, not just physically, but also to tap more into my mind, my mental and emotional and spiritual bodies. And that's also when I discovered Ayurveda. So it all went great until the pandemic hit. And so I've heard so many stories, including yourself now, whereas, okay, the pandemic hit, I'm going to focus on my health and well-being. Mine was the opposite. I was so focused on it. And then I wasn't at that point where so many other things were going on in my life, personally and professionally, that I ended up turning back and, relapsing, I guess is the term, and drinking alcohol. But recently we moved out here to Oahu and both my partner and I decided to stop drinking alcohol together as well. So that journey I'm, learning. And when I attended some of your events with DABL, which we will talk about soon, it helped me realize it's not just me. There's other people out there too that's enjoying alcohol-free lifestyle that you can still have fun. You don't have to have alcohol. And we feel so much healthier, a lot more energy. Like you said, being able to sleep through the evening and being just more sharp as well. So yeah, thank you for introducing this and making it like public too. Because oftentimes, like you said, it took you a year to like tell people. And I kept it myself. Like I didn't really tell that many people.
Yeah. May I ask what motivated you to stop again after the pandemic?
I think part of it was it stopped feeling like I would, even if I had half a glass of wine, the next day, my body and mind felt it. And I felt like I don't want to waste an entire day. There's things I want to do. And also on top of that, I want to get back into physical health and well-being, again, through Ayurveda, and just living a healthier lifestyle. I think it helped that my partner also decided. And literally went cold turkey.
Yep.
Just for health. And then also, I think just being surrounded by others here on island that has also decided, I don't really drink. It's not really around me. So my environment, I don't have that many people drink alcohol as well.
Yeah, I think it definitely does help that you had a big shift in your environment to continue that journey. It was part of this big move you made. So yeah, I think when we had decided to stop drinking, I didn't tell anybody because I was so scared of what I would lose. Had no insight on what I would gain at all. Was just focused on, am I going to lose my friends? What am I going to do for fun? Like, who am I? If I don't have this big part of me that was kind of like an underlying relation with a lot of people. And so it occupied a lot of time, and it was something that I could do with people. So I was very scared about what would be taken away if I quit drinking, and I also wasn't sure how my friends would react because most of them drank. And for people like us who, we just decide one day that we're going to stop. And luckily, physically, we can do that. A lot of people, go through programs like AA or rehab because that's there for more support. And like half the people, I think, need that. But there are people like us who decide one day we're just going to stop. There is no built-in community around that. We just decided one day. Whereas if you go through AA or a treatment program, you have a community that actually comes along with that because you're going through sober programs. You're going in AA, that's a strong community. So that is why I started DABL, was because I felt so alone and there were things that I wanted to do that I didn't want to be around alcohol anymore. The first event I put on was a dance party because I honestly, after the pandemic, just I wanted to go dancing and I had no interest in going to a club. I didn't want to be around a bunch of drunk people dancing. I just wanted to dance and have fun and get dressed up a little bit in colorful outfits. And so that's why the first event was a dance party.
I love that. Well, I've been to one of your events where it was just even the presentation and you can make mocktails, these beautiful mocktails that have tea in them and they still taste very good. And then not appetizers. What are they called?
Garnishes.
Yes, garnishes. Yeah. And then there's a charcuterie board. And to me, and maybe it's because we're getting older as well, but I was like, this is amazing at 5 p.m. and you're not feeling like everyone around you is smelling the alcohol, but rather you're surrounded by these beautiful drinks and food and feeling good and having more in-depth conversations that feel good versus a different type of environment. So I really appreciated that kind of space that you're providing to others and to the community.
I'm so glad that you were at that event. That is one of the things about drinking, right? You get those fancy glasses. That's fun. Being able to garnish your drink, that's fun. Being able to just make pretty things, and we really connect that to drinking wine or having brunch or happy hour or whatever. So you can do that with your friends without the alcohol. Yeah. And the beautiful part about doing it without the alcohol is because honestly, after the first, second, or third drink, the conversations kind of go downhill from there anyway. That's yes, you might end up in a deep conversation about something, but how much of yourself is really showing up for that conversation and from the other person? And then also, how much are you going to remember the next day? Right. So the conversations you have when you're open and you're sober is a lot more bonding with other people. Yeah. If you're able to feel comfortable. And that can take practice too.
Yeah. Exactly. Because that is part of the reason why maybe some people like drinking alcohol because they feel like, oh, I'm going to loosen up a bit. Yep. And that kind of allows me to kind of either speak my truth or be able to have those conversations that if sober, they're uncomfortable. But again, it goes back to the suppression. What is really kind of going on there that you need to kind of work through, that you need an alcohol or a spirit to get out of you. So yeah, I feel like it's a little bit of a full circle there. Can you tell us a little bit of other types of events that you do with DABL, and what does DABL stand for?
Oh, sure. DABL is actually DABL, so it's Design a Beautiful Life. And that name actually came to me. It just channeled to me one night when I was doing something called breathe ups. It's a free diving technique of a long breath, but to practice calming your heart rate down. And so I was doing that to kind of put my son to bed because he is a projector. He takes my like manifesting generator energy. So I have to calm myself down to calm him down too sometimes. So I was rubbing his back and I was doing these breathe ups and I was calming down, and kind of somewhere before falling asleep myself, it was like, DABL, design a beautiful life. And I was like, what is that? What is that? And I after that, I went and journaled it down and I wrote down all these things that it could be. And for me, what it is, it's literally trying out different things. And as a manifesting generator, and I bring this up just because I know you're a human design expert. So like as a manifesting generator, I love to dabble in stuff. Yeah. I'm always trying different types of things, activities, hobbies, like groups and different types of wellness stuff. Like I love to taste all the different things and get to know it a little bit. And then maybe I'll move on to the next thing. And so with DABL, I actually did try it out, the name out on a couple different things. You know, my friend and I were going to open a flower shop and I was like, how about DABL? And then that didn't fit. Right. Mm-hmm. And so when I was leaving my long-term job, my full-time job, that is when I decided DABL was what I was going to start, and it was going to be this community. And the main purpose of DABL is that it's to introduce people who are on a wellness journey, not to help people quit alcohol, but maybe who have already made that decision or might be DAMP, they call it, who like does it, sober curious is another word, right? So people who might be considering their relationship with alcohol, but on the other side, like developing their wellness practices and figuring out what it is they want to introduce into their lives. So DABL is a place where people can come and try out some other types of wellness things. And everything that we put on is to make your life a little more beautiful. And you can keep what you want and you can leave what you don't want. And so some of the other events that we do are, we have this series called Ripple. And we had one called the Ripple of Centering Self. This next one we have coming up on March 9th is the Ripple of Alignment. And so it's about aligning your life to basically be more authentic so that you can attract the things that you want to happen into your life. This one is going to be Saturday, March 9th at Kawaii Ko'olau. It's a beautiful space on the east side, the windward side of Oahu. And it's going to start off with a walk along the mountains. We're going to have a cacao ceremony that'll be hosted by Fosia Morgan, who also does human design and subconscious healing. And then we're going to come back. We're going to do an alignment workshop. Then we're going to have a beautiful lunch. And then I'm going to teach a lay workshop. Oh, so it's beautiful. Like we're calling it a micro retreat because it's a half day type of mini retreat that you can just take a break from your busy days, you know, like your normal life, come and do this little retreat and then go back to your life and hopefully take some of the practices with you.
Yeah. Oh, I love that mission. I love the philosophy behind it.
Thank you.
It's really accessible to so many people because like you said, you don't have to be this super well-being, super healthy. You don't have to be completely sober if that's like one of the things you're doing. You're just curious and you're on your journey of becoming a healthier person.
Exactly.
Mind, body, spirit, and you have all these fun activities that you can do to introduce you to all the different ways to become a healthier person.
And while I don't drink alcohol at all, I am also not a fully wellness, I am not a certified teacher of any sort. So I work with other wellness practitioners that are certified, but I like to call myself a wellness enthusiast because I love to try these different things and learn about them, but I'm not a professional in any of them, you know? And I feel like a lot of people are that way. So that's what the events are for.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was a wellness and still am wellness enthusiast for a long time before I started studying to become certified. So even you just providing the space, using your gifts, using your platform, using your network and community to help spread this to others is definitely a gift. So thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Oh, thank you.
Where can people find you and connect with you?
Yeah, so people can find me on Instagram. It's DABL with us, DABL with us. on Instagram. Our website is also dabblewithus.com. And yeah, you can find us there on either one. Yeah.
Awesome.
Or you could just reach out to me, find my email and send me a note if you want, or DM me. Yeah. Our community is small but growing, and everybody that comes becomes an advocate for DABL. So as we figure out all the regular events we're putting on, some of the bigger ideas that we have, I'm bringing everybody along with me because I need their support, and we're a community. So
I love that. I'll make sure to include the links in the show notes.
Thank you.
Thanks again for being a guest.
Thank you so much. That was so fun.
I love how Alana took a challenge her and her husband set out to do for a month via Dry January, extended it to an entire year, and then brought it to life as part of an expression of her dharma and serving the collective in her own fun and unique way. It was so refreshing for me to see Alana bring something to life that came from such a personal place, normalize it, and make it accessible for those in her community that also share a shared lifestyle or interest. Our society tends to normalize drinking alcohol as if it's okay to, quote unquote, have it in moderation, even to the extent of saying 1 to 2 glasses every day is okay. Or a few blue zones have red wine every day in their diet. If you are to drink, red wine is what's healthy for you. I think, like anything, being discerning about your relationship with alcohol and other potential vices and crutches is the main message here. If there is an unhealthy reliance to it where you consume something because you think it makes you feel better, or you think it creates more energy for you, or worse, it serves as something to numb you out, it may mean that you are not wanting to face something that needs to be addressed, something that is bothering you that is uncomfortable to address. I had always been a casual alcoholic drinker as an adult. The first time I decided to remove alcohol from my life was during some very stressful times when I moved away to Toronto on my own for 2 years. I came up against some tough challenges in my professional life and didn't really have a close local community in Canada that I could lean on. I noticed that for about 6 months, I had an unhealthy relationship to alcohol, having about 1 to 2 glasses of wine most weeknights. Again, this may be okay for some people, but for me, it was not my normal. I thought doing so was a way to help me relax after a busy day, but really it was me not wanting to address some challenges that I was facing and felt like I was facing them alone. Having a glass of wine after work most weeknights, what does that say? It was a form of escapism and suppression of feelings that I didn't want to address. Those feelings were that I was deeply unhappy in that professional situation, even though on paper everything looked great and I was on the rise. I recently had a conversation with an ER nurse asking how she's doing. She said she was stressed and burnt out. So I asked her how she deals with it, and she responded saying, "Honestly, I have wine every day after work." What is that saying about the state of your well-being? When resorting to alcohol or any other vice instead of tackling something head-on. What saved me at the time was my personal desire to be healthier holistically. I started reading a lot of books, doing cleanses, changing my diet. This is also around the same time that I discovered Ayurveda as I was navigating some tough times. When I started working with a few holistic and Ayurvedic doctors to get back my well-being, I decided to remove alcohol from my life for the first time. It was a big decision, and I was able to keep up with it for a year until the pandemic hit. And unfortunately, I took a step back during those tough times. But me going through the first phase of removing alcohol in my life helped me tremendously as I easily transitioned to a new phase of an alcohol-free lifestyle. When I think about this topic, I think of the 4 goals in life through Ayurveda. I spoke about these in a previous episode, which I will link in the show notes. Kama, one of the 4 aims in life, is about the seeking of experiences, pleasure, entertainment, and fun. But how much are we pursuing endless happiness, comfort, and joy versus facing what we're suppressing or avoiding as a result of that pursuit. Again, it doesn't have to be alcohol. It could be another crutch that you may not be aware of. Oftentimes, this discovery leads us back to our overall well-being. Not just the physical part, but the mental and spiritual parts of it as well. I love how my guest this week, Alana Eagle, was able to take her decision to get back her mental and physical health by living an alcohol-free lifestyle and curate very accessible and gentle ways of exploring and experimenting with various well-being approaches, from gentle hikes to breath work to cacao ceremonies to dance parties with beautiful and tasty mocktails. With my experience, I decided to dive into various sciences and systems to gain a greater understanding of myself, how I best operate, and how that works in larger organizations and cultures. I am also making a shift in lifestyle back to Ayurvedic teachings and to guide others who are interested in going through a similar journey, especially for those who are in demanding lifestyles and professions. If you are wanting to learn more about this topic or would like to share your journey, I would love to hear from you. Ways to connect with me are in the show notes. Once again, I'm Kaycee Conlas, host of the Hello Flow Pod, signing off until next episode. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. If there's anything that resonated with you, please share it on Instagram and tag me at KayceeCan_ and at HelloFlow Collective. I would love to hear from you. As always, if you enjoy listening to what we discuss on the podcast, please share the show with friends who may also resonate. And don't forget to also subscribe, rate, and review. See you next time on the Hello Flow podcast.